Hey everyone, it's Jessica. I'm back with another layout for Peartree Cutfiles using the August 2023 Pearscription files, and I'm using this one that says Adventure Outdoors. So I've pulled out a sheet of solid black cardstock and then also a textured sheet of solid cardstock in this green shade. I think it was by Creative Memories a long time ago, but I have a whole bunch of it in my stash. So I'm going to use one of these on my layout today because it matches perfectly with this simple vintage Lakeside collection by Simple Stories. And it's got a lot of woodsy bits in it and just good things for hiking and things like that, which is what these photos are. So that's what I'm going to use today. I'm pulling out the stencil by Peartree, and I am just going to use I guess this is the negative piece, or no, the negative piece would be the piece that's cut out. So this is the actual stencil, and this is some nice little pine trees, kind of like a border, but I'm flipping it on its side and using it as kind of an edge to my photos. So I'm just smushing in here with some Black Soot Distress Oxide. I'm just going to put that all throughout my trees here and just kind of do some ink blending on the bottom. I'm going to cover up the bottom of it with photos anyhow, so I'm not super particular about how this turns out at the bottom. So I'm just moving a little bit. As you can see, I've used some pixie tape by Thermoweb to tape down the edges of my stencil because I didn't want to get any excess on the outside edges of my stencil and kind of create that square look. So I made sure that I taped it off first. And then here I'm just kind of taping it off a little bit on that other edge of the tree because I didn't want it to look weird and kind of pull in that other tree branch. So there, my stenciling is all done. I have these 3 photos from a hiking trip from one of our camping adventures. I actually recently scrapped some of these photos from the rest of this hike on a mushroom layout by Not Just for Boys. So check that one out if you haven't already. It's a super cool layout. And those photos actually go with these photos. So it'll go really close together in my book. I've cut out the middle of my black cardstock because I want to map my photos with it. So I don't like to waste paper, and I tend to use and recycle anything that I possibly can. So I have just cut the middle out of this black cardstock and then straightened up the edges on my cutting board here, and then I just matted my photos with them. I'm pulling out this little paper pad by the same simple vintage Lakeside collection, and I'm just going to cut this one out. I want to use this as an embellishment on my page. This is actually one of the 3x4 pocket cards that come with the collection, but I have cut it out and I am going to use that as an embellishment. So you could totally do that with the rest of them too if you wanted to. But I'm just kind of looking through here just to see which one I want to use to back my cut file with. Originally, I was going to pull out a bunch of these patterns and back each letter with a different pattern, but I really loved the look of all of these ferns at the bottom of this one. So I am just applying some Nouveau glue directly to the back side of my cut file, which I've already cut out on my Cricut. And I am just laying this right down on top of that paper. And then I'm going to take my scissors and just trim out around all the edges. So I'll fast forward this here so you don't have to watch me cut out each individual letter and cut out in between everything. But that's how I do it, and I wanted to show you that just in case you're new here and you haven't seen how I back my files. This is one way that I tend to do it. So here I'm just finishing out the other side. I didn't really see a problem with going up into the next little spot on this paper. So I'm just gonna use the next little spot right above this. It seemed like it matched pretty well going across my cut file there, so it worked out pretty good. And then here I'm just using my X-Acto knife and my cutting mat just to trim out the middles of my letters and kind of in between them and the spots that I couldn't get with my scissors. So I'm just poking them out or trimming them away. And then I'm gonna grab the my cutting mat over here and bring that into the frame so you can see what I do here. I like to grab the letters from the inside, so the negative pieces. I pop those down and then I use that as a template to actually glue down the middles of my letters. And then after I glue the middles, then I go ahead and cut them out with my X-Acto knife. Sometimes I leave them in, sometimes I don't even put the middles in them. So it just kind of depends on what look that I'm going for based on what I do. But for this particular one, I wanted the middles out, so I went ahead and trimmed them out with my cutting tool. So those are all done. I'm not going to do anything else to this cut file. I love it just the way that it is. I love the way that the black pops with those little ferns. I think it just looks so cute. So I'm not going to do anything else to it. Sometimes I'll add some little wordy bits or phrases across the word. Sometimes I'll add little trinkets and icons, but I didn't. Here, I'm just pulling out these dies that I have in my stash here. I recently got them. I love them. And I love this little binder clip on this set. So I'm going to actually cut 3 of them out, but I only actually used 2. So I thought it would look cool if it looked like a little clipboard at the top and bottom. So that's why I'm attaching them here. I'm just attaching one at the top and one at the bottom photo. So that's all I'm going to do with those. Super quick and easy. And I actually used my, my little trim pieces or excess piece from my cut file, which was a scrap piece in itself. So as you can see, I do like to recycle things. And these little film strips I love. They're by 49 in Market, and I'm actually going to cut this one in half and use on both sides of my photos because it wouldn't go the whole way across, but I loved it and I didn't want to waste 2 of them just to get it to go the whole way across. So that's what I do whenever I like to cheat with embellishments. If the embellishments are really big, sometimes I'll cut them in half and do something like this. Or if they don't reach the other side, I'll do the same thing as I'm doing here. I'll cut it in half and then just tuck it behind both sides. So it looks like it's going the whole way, but it's really not. But you know what? You and I are the only ones that are ever going to know about that. So no big deal. I'm just placing my photos down, seeing what direction I want them to go. I want them staggered. As you guys know, I don't usually do anything straight ever. I always have to have something crooked or skewed. So it's funny because when I go to stick this back down, I had it straight the entire time I've been working on this layout. And when I go to actually stick it down to my layout, I decide, hey, I want that crooked. See? So I'm going to actually stick it down a little bit crooked, but I'll keep my cut file pretty straight. So I don't know. I have to have one wonky thing in my layouts and the rest like can be straight. I don't know. It's just the way that my brain works. But as far as my trees there, I'm not really going to do anything else. I thought about doing some stamping in there. I really love to stamp little word phrases, and I thought about doing that on top of my stenciling, but I opted to put some black splatters with just some black distress oxide. So I used the spray one to do the splatters. I really like how that effect is. So there's my cut file. I have popped it up with some Thermoweb 3D shaker strips. And I'm just going to put this little So Awkward flare there. You've seen that in the whole layout so far. It's been kind of popping in and out of the frame. And it's by Scrap and Happy Studios, but it's one that I have left over from an old set. And I have never gotten a chance to use it, but the way that my son was standing and trying to fit into that tree with his big brother, it just looked so awkward. So it's perfect for this layout. And I feel kind of bad using it beside him, but you know what? I don't know what other occasion I will get that's more perfect for this, because it was awkward because they used to fit in that tree and sit beside each other so well. And now they're just both getting so big that they can barely sit in it. So it's just getting a little bit awkward. So I thought that little flare was just perfect. And if you've watched my layouts before, my videos, you've seen me use these Simple Stories sticker books. You've seen me talk about them. I just absolutely love them. They're jam-packed with things. There's so much in these sticker books, and I love these little tabs for around your photos or different things. I just think it's so cute. And they just come loaded and jam-packed with all kinds of things with that theme. So they're just perfect, and I can't talk them up enough. It's like one of my favorite things. So I'm just pulling off a bunch of those. I'm going to pop down a compass on this layout too a little bit later. I'm trying to make that little fern work, but I couldn't really find a good place to put it. So I'm just moving on through these little die cuts. I'm going to see what else I can use out of this pack here. I'll pull a couple things out. I'm going to put these little mushrooms here and then just pop my flare over top. I'm trying to find a home for this little butterfly, but in the end I settle at the bottom. I'm going to actually cut a little notch in my layout and put it right at the bottom. And then I'll tuck in some, probably some other pattern paper from this collection too. So I'm just going to give it a little more pop of color. So there I just cut my notch and I folded back the edges. I'm going to actually use some 3D foam squares to pop up that little butterfly here in a moment. So that's where I'm going to tuck that embellishment. It's going to stay below my cut file there. I'm keeping my cut file on the side just to create that vertical effect, and I'm sticking with that. And I like that little lake embellishment there. I'm going to tuck that guy right in there. I was kind of playing around with adding a couple things there, but I think that one is enough. It's fine. And you know what? We weren't even at a lake, but it's fine. I think the color matches and it's just super cute. So I'm going to use it. So I'll tuck that little guy in there and then just continue sticking everything down. I'm using my ATG gun today. Sometimes I use my Thermoweb tape runner too, but it just kind of depends what's in reach, honestly. I like them both. So my ATG gun was here and on my desk already, so I just grabbed it. So I've stuck down my little, it kind of looks like a doily embellishment almost. And then I've added a little compass with the sticker book. And then I'm pulling out the puffy stickers to see if there's anything on here that I can add. A lot of these are so cute and I wanted to add a whole bunch, but they're really wordy and I didn't think I needed any other words if I could help it, just because of the cut files. So I think I want to leave the cut file to speak for itself. I'm just adding that little butterfly up there with some of the 3D foam, just so that I can pop it up for dimension. And I just kind of popped up its wings a little bit just by bending them up. So there, my cut file is stuck down now. I just had to peel off all the edges of that 3D foam tape. And then I'm just going to make another notch right here. And I'm going to go ahead and add my pattern paper in here in just a second. I'm going to add this little embellishment that says unplugged, which is just perfect because we were camping. There's no cell service there. So I just pulled out this one right off of the top. I just absolutely love this pattern paper. And I wish I had a ton of it because the color is perfect and I love stripes. So I'm going to tuck this right into both of these notched edges and finish those off. I think that just looks so pretty with that pop of color on top of that green. I just love that. So that's going to finish that off. I'm actually going to staple the bottom edges down just because I have that butterfly to place down. So I don't want it to cause interference with that. I'm using some Easy Tear Tape by Thermoweb to tape down my edges down to the black cardstock. And all I have to do is just put that Easy Tear Tape down and you can just rip it. It's super easy to use. And then you just peel off the backing. So it is super, super sticky. So if you get this, just be forewarned that Easy Tear Tape, once you stick that down, it is not going to go anywhere. And if it does, it's going to peel up your paper with it. So I do like it. I use it all the time and I absolutely love it, but just know that you better make sure that it is where you want it to be because it's not going anywhere. So I've got my butterfly down and I'm just going to tuck some thread in behind my flare. So I'm just sandwiching it between some glue dots just for extra reinforcement here, and so I can make sure it's super sticky and it's not going to go anywhere. So I'll go ahead and put that down. And then I'm going to make some other little thread twiddles here to tuck in by my butterflies as well. I thought it looked like they needed something, so I'm just trying to get this glue dot off of the paper, which proved to be very, very hard. It kept sticking to everything, so everything but what I wanted it to. So in the end, I just used some Nuvo glue, tucked it behind my butterfly, and made sure that it was sticking to the paper and not the butterfly's wing, and then I just left it alone to dry. So there, I'm just doing the same thing. I'm just tucking that in behind there with some Nuvo glue, just kind of making sure that it's actually sticking to the paper and not the butterfly, so it's underneath. Then I'm pulling out a stamp set by Elle Studio. I think this is the Home Sewn Stitches stamp set. I really like these little X's and I wanted it to look like little stitches along my page, so I am just stamping some X's on here with some black archival ink. And then I am going to do some doodling around the edge as well. So I've brought out my little black pen and I might as well just stamp my date now and get that over with. I like to use the Paige Evans date stamp lately. I also have the Project Life one too. It's a cute one too. It has little hearts between the numbers, which is super cute. So here I'm just doodling around all my edges just to fill that in and just kind of finish that off. And then I'm going to pull out some sequins to add to this as well. So I've cleaned up my desk here, as you can see, and I am just going to pop a whole bunch of sequins down in this layout. And the sequins are from the Not Just for Boys Kid Club. So this is actually going to be my last layout for Peartree for a little while. But I will be back at some point. I know I love Marie and her cut files, and the team is just amazing. So I thank you so much for this opportunity and for being part of the team, and look forward for my new creative adventure that's going to be coming up. So thank you all so much for being here and have a great day. Bye-bye.